Hello class, here's the video for the English 101 final portfolio that you need to click on first to learn what exactly I'm asking from you for this final project of English 101. This will be my final video to you guys, so after watching this you should be ready to begin. So let's just get into it because there's a lot to discuss. So goals. All my English 101 courses are portfolio based. The portfolio is the primary means for evaluating student work in my courses because it honors both the process and products of writing, and in this class it'll comprise a large percentage of your final grade. Your portfolio will consist of a significantly revised research paper, rhetorical argument, and rhetorical analysis. Additionally, your final portfolio requires a cover page, a cover letter, which is at least 2 pages long, and a table of contents with page numbers on the bottom right hand corner. So those are just some requirements, and I'll get into each of these here in a second, but overall what you're doing is basically compiling all of your assignments into one final portfolio. Think of it as the mini portfolio, but it's everything, not just one single project, but all of the projects you've done over this course. So let's get into it. So for English 101 requirements, the research paper must be included, of course, and must be at least 8 pages long with 5 sources in the works cited page. 2 sources must be peer-reviewed sources, so you don't need any additional sources. But the paper length, it needed to be, I think, 6 pages long or so, and now it needs to be at least 8 pages long. The rhetorical analysis assignment, which was the rhetorical analysis over an advertisement, an ad that you looked at, whichever ad it was, it needs to be at least 3 pages long this time, and include 1 additional scholarly source for a total of 3 sources. You should already have 2 from the previous draft. The idea is theirs to revise based off the comments I've given you, and also include a scholarly source as a way to show me that you understand how scholarly sources work and how to integrate them into papers you've already written. The rhetorical argument, which was the letter you wrote, it needs to be at least 4 pages long and include as well an additional scholarly source for a total of 4 sources. You already should have 3 sources from the previous draft. So those are the minimum requirements. If they're longer than that, that's fine, but you need to meet at least this amount. And of course, for the rhetorical argument and the rhetorical analysis, you need to have at least an additional scholarly source. If you want to include more sources for your research paper, that's totally fine, but you don't need to. It's up to you. Here's the portfolio requirements. Now, this date might change, so make sure to look at yours. In this case, it's Friday, August 24th. But for your date, since this is a video, of course, I'm not going to make a video for every single class, but check this. It is going to be due on Canvas. That'll never change, but this date will change. Make sure to look at that date carefully. Otherwise, you must include the following, just in this order, by the way: cover page, table of contents, cover letter, research paper, final draft, revised draft, rough draft, then a rhetorical argument, final revised rough, then the rhetorical analysis, final revised draft, exactly in that order. And I'll show you an example of this. You need page numbers in the bottom right corner of every page except for the cover page. And really important here, you have to have correct grammar and punctuation in the cover letter as well as all final drafts in the final portfolio. Unlike your mini portfolios, which I didn't grade based on grammar or errors or having a strong thesis statements or having weak arguments, whatever the case is, this is different. I grade this just like I would like any other regular paper. The mini portfolios I didn't grade. I just made sure you guys had the minimum amount of work and that you were given an effort. However, this changes with the final portfolio. It is you're showing me everything you learned in this class, and you are applying all of these skills in this final portfolio. As such, I will be looking at your grammar, punctuation, citations, etc. So important notes. If you want to know exactly what I'm going to be looking at, here are things you want to focus on. First, of course, is the correct order of materials as outlined in this paper. And be aware, this is all in one Word document. Do not send me a PDF or some other kind of file. Make sure it's a Word file, all right? That's very important. I don't want to see anything else. Show correct grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Show correct MLA citation. Show significant revision in each final draft of your assignment. So I want you to take what I wrote to you from your second draft, whatever comments I've given you, and address those comments in each of your papers. Show your ability to summarize, analyze, synthesize, and respond and write into text, especially in the final draft of your research paper. So showing me how you're able to combine the information you received in your research and show me how you applied it in your writing. So they can make an argument, not just a report. This should be pretty easy to make, as all of your papers should have been an argument. And of course, show your ability to use rhetoric to persuade or connect with your audience. I will not accept any late portfolios under any circumstance, so make sure you're turning your final portfolio on whatever due date you have for your specific class. Please make sure to ask me for help. Although we don't have office hours because it's an online class, I will be available as much as possible online. So please make sure to contact me if you need help. We will have plenty of time to work on this. The last 2 weeks of this class is usually time for you to just work on the final portfolio. When organizing your final portfolio, make sure that you have the final drafts first and then each subsequent draft after that. So here you have research paper final draft, research paper second or revised draft, research paper first rough draft. You will do the same for all of your papers in the final portfolio. You must have at least 3 drafts of each paper. One is the rough that you turn into your peers for peer review, right? Then you turn in a revised one to me to get my comments, and of course then you'll have a final one that you'll revise the last one based off the comments I've given you. There will be an example of the final portfolio. Usually it's under week 8, but I'm thinking this one is going to be on week 7, but it's usually the last module. Correct citations are a must. You are proving to me that you only know when to cite correctly, but you know how to cite correctly in MLA specifically. So if any of your citations in your final drafts, let me be that clear, in your final drafts, are incorrect for any reason, you will lose a whole letter grade. So a B plus to a B and a B to a B minus. So make sure you are aware of your citations and that you're doing them correctly. For this, you will not receive any comments for the final portfolio, unlike your other drafts, because there's nothing really to revise after this. You are just turning them in. I also have a lot of portfolios. I just don't have the time to give comments like I usually do. So I will just score them according to what I see. And I grade the portfolio holistically, so as a whole product, from the cover page to the last assignment, and making sure all of your items are there. Again, if you want to know specifically what you should be working on for any part of your final portfolio, look at this list right here. Okay, so that's the final portfolio in a nutshell. That's the requirements. Of course, like I said, look at the assignment as yourself. If you have any specific questions that this video did not answer, specifically whenever your due date is. But for now, let us go over here and look at the other tools I provided to help you understand the final portfolio. Now, under the assignment here, you will see 2 other things. One is the final portfolio outline, and one is the final portfolio or English 101 portfolio example. Let's look at the outline first. Click on that, download it, and open it up. It's going to be a Word file, so again, Word is how you're going to use this. It'll open up over here. Eventually, here we go. So here's the final portfolio outline, and here what I have is just a couple of things to remind you of some things you need to have in this final portfolio. When you're ready to begin, delete all this information. Okay, I'm not going to go over it. It's the exact same information I just went over right now, but what you'll do is just highlight all of this right here and delete it and move this cover page up. So there you go. There's your final portfolio, and here's an outline already made for you to make things as simple as possible. So here you will have, this will be the same. Your section numbers usually at the top right here. It's the first, it'll say English 101 or whatever English class you're in, and then of course the next 4, not letters, but numbers. Those will be the numbers you have here for your section number. So you'll delete that and put whatever it was, 328 was it? 18, something like that, whatever it is. Of course, your name here, delete all of this, and then whatever date you have whenever you work this last. Then you have a table of contents. And there you go. I made one for you. You can have a different one, just make sure you have a table of contents. One thing I want to tell you now for right now is that this is the very last thing you do. Do not mess with this or organize the numbers here, because every time you add something, it's going to screw everything up, okay? Don't mess with the table of contents. This is the very, very last thing you do, okay? Once everything is done, then you put the numbers based on what you have down here, right? And speaking of numbers, you have them down here. I've also already given them to you as well, so at the corner of the page. One thing I wanted to mention too that it's going to help you out a lot. See how this is kind of going on to the second paper where it shouldn't be, right? And if you hit enter, it'll go down. But a way to make sure it does that is to create a page break. So one thing you want to do is have your cursor behind whatever word you have here. In this case, it'll be a name, and then hit Command Enter on Mac or Control Enter on PC. Hold the Command, hold Control, whatever, and then hit Enter or Return, whatever you want to call it, and bam, it creates a page break. You want to do that kind of to everything here, in case it does that. That way, no matter what, it won't move your stuff up, and otherwise it'll get very, very annoying. But do whatever you want, right? Do what you will as long as it looks good. Anyway, so once that's done, once your table of contents is done, so we have the cover page, table of contents, then here we have the portfolio cover letter. And again, what I have here is just some pointers, advice of what you want to write in this cover letter. Again, it's just a reflection. Instead of a single project like you do with the mini portfolios, it's a reflection of all of your writing throughout this session. Okay, so here's a couple of questions you may want to answer. What have you learned in this course, taking this online course? What did you enjoy the most? What did you dislike? What was your revision process like? What did you learn from revising your papers, etc., etc.? I'll give you an example of what this looks like here in a bit, but that's just a couple of things to note when you start. Regardless, whenever you're ready, of course, again, delete this information and then begin to write your letter. Make sure it's at least 2 pages long, and you will be good to go. Again, let's do that so it's not in that page. And then that'll be your cover letter. Just like if you've done mini portfolios, if you've done all 3, this is honestly not that bad. That's why I've had you done mini portfolios, all in service to this final portfolio. And again, this is not a reflection of a single project. It's a reflection of everything you've done in the class. So you can easily write 2 pages because of the discussions we've had, the readings, the writing, all the lectures I've given you through these videos. You should be able to write 2 pages easy. And if you write more, that's totally fine. I want at least 2 pages. Okay, and then next you'll have the final draft of your research paper. So you'll just copy and paste it over here, or you can write it from here, whatever. And it's however long it needs to be. After that, you'll copy and paste the revised draft of your research paper. And here's the thing, if for some reason you misplaced it, no big deal. You have it up on Canvas. If you turn it in on Canvas, guess what? There's still a copy there, that with the revised and the rough. So whatever the case, you can just copy and paste it right here. Same thing with the rough draft of your research paper. Then comes the final draft of the rhetorical argument, the letter. Then the revised draft of the rhetorical argument. Then the first draft, the rough draft. Then after that, the rhetorical analysis, the final draft of the ad, right? Then the revised draft of the rhetorical analysis, and then the rough draft of the rhetorical analysis, and you're done. You'll notice that'll get pretty long, totally fine, no big deal. It might be 40 to 50 pages or so, perfectly fine. I'm not looking for a certain length. It's going to be long because, of course, you have minimum requirements and for each paper, and you have 3 drafts of 3 different assignments. So in total, about nine papers, right? And you should notice, by the way, just as an aside here, that the first paper you wrote in my class, and then the last paper, which will be the very first one I see, the research paper, the final draft, you should see some significant improvement from those 2 drafts. And that's kind of showing you how much you've learned in this class and how much you've applied it in these assignments. So just something neat to kind of see, and that's actually what I'm looking for myself, how well you've been improving along this session, short as it may be. All right, so that's the final portfolio. Use this outline. That's what I gave it to you. You're free to change things that you rather do it yourself. Like if you don't like this type of table of contents, you want to do it a little more differently, that's fine, as long as you have it. I don't care. I just gave you a quick one that I made here for you guys. And I just made this so it makes it easiest possible for you guys, right? So for whenever you start working on this, little by little, or as much as you want, there it is. And once this is, of course, turned into me, you're done with my class. You can sign off for good and not have to worry about it anymore, okay? But until that's done, make sure to use this final portfolio outline, okay? So the next thing I have over here in your modules is an example. This example is it's from me again. By that I mean all of these papers I put in here are my old English papers from when I was in college at Washington State University as an undergraduate. And I just, because I don't want to use any students' papers, so I use my own, which is perfectly fine. Um, but I wanted you guys to have an example of how this may look, and so I just use my own papers so that you have an idea. So here's just a quick example in case you're like, how should this look? Here you go. One thing to note on this example, you're not going to use the annotated bibliography. I used to require it, but don't worry about it. Just get rid of it. So don't worry. Just you don't need to include it. I should honestly get rid of that in the template. I just keep forgetting that it's on there. Whatever the case, you're not going to have that. So here's my papers. So here's again. So as you notice, I give the title, which is I think it's better than giving like research paper, right? So the title, final draft, and then of course I combined the Mobile Youth drafts 1 and 2, rough and revised. What you can do, of course, if you want, is instead of that, go like this and revise, and then it'll be rough over here, right? And that's perfectly fine as well. And then you'll have a long thing right there or whatever. That's okay. You can do what I did here, which I just combined the two drafts. Up to you to do that. Anyways, back to this. Here's my cover letter, which you can read, and as you can see, it was for English 301. Anyways, so it's not pertinent to the class, but I'm basically talking about my experience there and what my papers are about. And my cover letter was much longer than yours needs to be. Again, it's not going to be quite the same related to the class, what I'm asking you guys to do, but it gives you an idea of what a cover letter should look like. I'm not going to go through this. You're welcome to read this if you want. I don't know why you would, but in case you really need to understand what a cover letter is kind of like, there you go. After that is right here is my research paper. And oops, I should not have done that. That was sincerely my name here. But here's my research paper. Here's the final draft of this. Whatever I researched about SOPA, I think it was, gosh, what was it? No, Mobile Youth. I have no idea. It's been a while. I don't look at my old stuff. But here it is. Here's the final draft of it. Notice one thing. The citations are off. That is for sure. They're not MLA, and they're not cited correctly. So don't use this so much as citations. These are actually not. These citations are what you would call APA actually, and even if they were MLA, they'd be outdated MLA. It'd be MLA 7, not 8, which is what I taught you guys, and that's what we're doing from now on. So. But just in case you need how to organize them, and how it should look, there you go. That's really all I gave you this for, just so you have an idea of what the final portfolio would look like. Here's the revised draft of that research paper. And here's the first draft, or the rough draft, I guess you could say. After that, I'm pretty sure it's the annotated bibliography, which I will delete because I'm not asking you guys to have this. So don't worry about that. It should go into your argument paper after this. I'll move this up a little bit. Yep. Okay, so after that should be your argument paper, which for you was a letter. In this case, in this example, it's not a letter. It's just another paper that I had lying around, and I'm like, yep, sure, it'll go here, just so you understand. This is not a letter. Let's just pretend it was. Dear public, sure, whatever. And then, of course, here's the final draft. Revised draft, rough draft. And the last is, of course, the rhetorical analysis. And I said rhetorical analysis. This is not a rhetorical analysis paper. This was a story I wrote in this class. But again, I just included it so you have an idea of what this would look like. Here is just pretend this is an ad paper that you guys wrote. Here's the final draft, revised draft, and then, of course, the rough draft. And as you can see, it's pretty long, right, with all these drafts, 61 pages. But again, it's however long it needs to be, and I'm expecting you guys to be like 49 to 50, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's going to be long, and it makes sense. Even if you just want to start by copying and pasting your stuff over, that's great. Do that. That's fine, just so that you have an idea of where things should go. But this is the order of how your English 101 portfolio should look like, okay? Again, this is not exactly comparable. These assignments aren't comparable to assignments I had you do, but how I organize them, that's what I want from you guys. Follow the outline that I provided on Canvas. That'll really help you stay on task, okay? So that is what I'm having you do for this assignment. This is your final, really, for my class. There's no real test. Think of this as being your test. Again, the most important thing is to make sure that you show me significant revision between the final drafts and the revised drafts that you have, and be able to show me your citations in your paper, right? Show me that they're correct. Show me you know how to do them in MLA 8 as we practice throughout this whole course. Like always, I will be available for you guys anytime. Please send me an email if you have any type of questions. Otherwise, this is due, depending, of course, for you guys, it'll be August 24th. It'll be different, of course, when whatever class is looking at this. But keep in mind that is a hard date. There are no late portfolios due, or no late portfolios accepted. Make sure to turn it in on time before midnight on whatever given date you have, okay? All right, well, that'll do it for us. Thanks for this session. It was a joy to have you. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. Otherwise, good luck to you, and I'll see you around.